Before I get started, just want to introduce myself. My name is Rita Perez. I am the project director for the Collaborative Action for Family Engagement. We call it CAFE. Um, and we are a statewide family engagement center that is located in Maryland and Pennsylvania. We're the only federally funded center that has two states. Our organization, MAEC, also is the host for the Statewide Family Engagement Center in Maine. So we are supporting three states right now in with family engagement. So I'm going to talk to you today about family engagement as a school improvement lever, and I'm going to, within this, provide an example of how we did this work with 5 community schools here in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. Just a disclaimer, I won't read it all for the essence of time, but essentially our thoughts are our own. The work is funded by the federal government, but our thoughts are our own. Again, this is who we are. Let me go back. Sorry, let me go back there. Once again, who we are, a little blurb about that. So what is family engagement? At MAEC, family engagement is a collaborative partnership between schools, families, and communities that embraces and relies on diverse strengths, cultures, and experiences to create a supportive environment where every student can thrive. Again, for purposes of time, I'm not going to read everything is here, but we have 3 elements of family engagement: affirming the role of families as partners, enriching learning and well-being, strengthening community relationships. And I'll be sending the slide deck over as well when we're finished. So school improvement is really important to us at MAEC, as is continuous improvement. So we believe that family engagement is a necessary and critical school improvement lever. And we know this because the research tells us this. It improves student outcomes, it strengthens school and community trust, it supports equity and inclusion, it aligns support across environments, and it improves the effectiveness of school improvement plans. And so then I also want to talk to you about continuous improvement. So we have school improvement, but we do it under the lens of a continuous improvement process, the plan, do, study, act process. Some of you may be familiar with that. And this is kind of an iterative cycle where you plan, you do the work, you study it, you study the interventions, and then you act upon it, whether you have to make tweaks or you have to change things. And in the work of continuous improvement. The little twist on all of that is that we do it with the lens of equity, right? So what is continuous improvement for equity, or CI for E? It really recognizes how power and privilege and social context affect us and our work, education teams. And when I talk about teams, this includes any family members or caregivers that are on the team, any community partners that are on the team. Our lens really fosters an inclusive and equitable space to promote positive social change, and it works to dismantle systemic inequities that affect students. And so our framework is shown here, and we have 6 kind of stages that we go through: understanding the system, creating a collaborative and diverse team, determining an aim, designing a theory of improvement, testing interventions, and convening a network. And we do that within a structure of representation, structure, and process, where we have guiding questions that we work through with our teams. So I want to show you just a quick case study of how we use this CI for E process in a recent engagement that we just finished. The engagement was with the 5 schools that are supported, community schools that are supported by the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley. I am located in the Lehigh Valley. Our organization works nationwide, but and we obviously support Maryland, Pennsylvania, but I'm here in the Lehigh Valley. I'm very familiar with the community schools here. In fact, I was a principal of a community school many years ago let's say the mid to late 90s when the movement was getting started. I was in the Allentown School District. And so when we're talking about this work, you know, we want to be able to solve a problem, right, to ensure equitable family engagement opportunities in all schools. And so when we worked with these community schools, we worked with the community school leaders, building administrators, and family-facing professionals. And some of the work we did within our CI for E process, we aligned current family engagement opportunities to the Family Pennsylvania Engagement Standards. So not all states have these standards, but Pennsylvania does. Um, and we have other tools that we can use if your state does not have family engagement standards. We worked with principals to help them understand how to create a diverse team, and they conducted empathy interviews with stakeholders to understand their perspectives. That empathy interview piece is really important because you can't always get people to the table at the same time, but you can get their input, you can get their feedback, you can get their thoughts if you do some interviews around the table. We use some protocols to help create a district-wide aim, and then we examined some data and helped build out the system through and aligned with the community school engagement plan. Okay, it's not going forward. Let's try that. Okay. So some of the lessons that we learned were that relying on district data isn't always easy. Having to learn and understand a data system sometimes takes a lot of time and resources. Data from one district is not comparable to data from another district. Family surveys don't always allow for a high degree of data disaggregation. And sometimes bureaucracy slows down the process. And while we aligned what we were doing, the PA standards, it would be great to have a consistent framework to use across all family engagement efforts. And there it is. Places that we had some challenges within the system. Understanding the system again, it's that data piece that sometimes can be difficult. Determining an aim was sometimes a little hard because we wanted to make sure that whatever we were designing in terms of a goal or an aim was directly linked back to the community school alignment plan, and link back to academic goals, right? So during our session with the United Way schools, they could choose a goal that was already in their improvement plan around either academics, around behavior, around social emotional wellness, attendance, those kinds of things, and then link family engagement activities back to that. And then designing a theory of improvement. It's those if-then statements. If we do this, then this will happen. The challenge in doing those with this was that I think we would have liked to have one more day. We worked with United Way over 3 sessions, one of which was in person, and it was a full day session. It would have been really nice, I think, in hindsight, if we would have had another day, maybe in person, to really dig into and start developing those pieces. So if you could, we have a little evaluation link. I'll be sending that link over with the slide deck as well. We would really like you to take a moment to complete this evaluation because your feedback informs our own internal continuous improvement efforts. The slide deck that I'm going to send over may be a little different than what you've seen here, as I noticed a couple things on the slide deck that I need to update for all of you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rita. You had plenty more time if you needed it. So I think if Natasha, if you're willing to go, maybe we'll have just that much more time for Q&A at the end. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Natasha, you have about 20 to 25 minutes, and I can give you a 5 and 1 minute warning in the chat as well.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Good morning to everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on today. And again, thank you, Rita, for going ahead. We appreciate it. Technology is not always your friend. Even though we want it to be our friend, it's not always our friend. Yeah. Again, my name is Natasha Rouse, and I am an instructional specialist in the Newark Board of Education in Newark, New Jersey. We are the largest school district, and we service 64 schools. We have about 5 to 9 community schools in our school district. I enjoy the work that I do. I have been in the education field for over 25 years, almost at a place of retirement. Yay! um, but I absolutely enjoy what I do. And so over the last couple of months, we have focused, actually tried our best to focus our district more on the importance of family engagement and the necessity of understanding that family engagement is not just something that's nice, but it is something that's necessary. A lot of times we were thinking in our local schools and our community and schools that family engagement was family involvement. And so spending the last 2 years with channeling a new direction of having leadership, principals, superintendents, deputy superintendents to understand that family engagement is not family involvement and family engagement is absolutely necessary, and giving families an understanding as to why we do what we do and why we have to move this way, not necessarily for cute pictures, but to actually make sure that our students become the scholars that we know that they could be. The second thing that you all will see here are the lessons that we learned. And so, in the lessons that we learned that there had to be a shift, and the shift needed to take place very quickly. We could not afford for this shift to be done in an isolated way, or for the shift to be done in a way that we didn't have full involvement from everyone. So we pulled in different departments for them to understand the why. We spent a lot of time focusing on the why behind why we do what we do. Because again, we had so many schools that were focusing more on the involvement and not necessarily the engagement. So explaining to families as well as leadership as to why we do what we do on the district level, but also making the connection with data, giving them the opportunity to understand how important connecting their why to their annual school plans. In Newark, we use annual school plans, and we also have schools that are part of SIA, which is School Improvement Allocation. And so we've had to connect all of those dots. At one point, when we were making the shift, we had over 23 schools that were in SIA at the time. Now focusing more on parent engagement versus parent involvement, for spending more time on the engagement. Those 23 schools, we are now within a year time, we are now down to 8 schools that have SIA because we made that shift, and we did it very quickly by including everyone to understand the why to engagement and how impactful it could be. So we took time to focus principals. We took time to focus coaches. We took time to focus families for them to understand that this is not something we want to happen just for this moment, but we want it to be sustained over time. So the shift is necessary. We also made sure that families and students were involved in the success of the movement. So we did parent tours. We went around we broken up into 4 wards. And so we spent time going into those 4 wards, giving parents and students an opportunity to share in the shift. What would it take for us to go from involvement to engagement, and teaching them, right, that family engagement is necessary. We may not necessarily like it because we want to do the involvement. We want the coat drives, right? We want the sock drives. But after that, we want to make sure that our students understand their content, understand how necessary it is for a homeschool connect. So that was one of the major lessons that we learned in this process. We also learned that families had no idea the difference between involvement and engagement. So giving them also the opportunity to understand how they can better engage themselves, and to move from involving themselves in the school day, but also now to being engaged in that home and school connect. The data, this is the part that I absolutely love. They call me the data girl here downtown because I love data. Just like I like to read. But understanding data and how important data is, can I tell you that data answers questions, right? A lot of times people are afraid of data, but I believe that all of us that are in this particular workshop here, we know how to use data to drive what what it is that we need. We use data to drive our goals, but more importantly, data answers the questions. And so we have really turned our conference room into what I call a data center. It is our headquarters for data, where we spend time constantly looking at the need. What is the need? So every 3 months, we go in, we look at our evaluations every month, our feedbacks. I heard Rita sharing about making sure that we participate in evaluative moments of sharing feedback. That is so necessary. And we had to get our families to understand how necessary that was, because we will have over 150 families that would join in engagement workshops, engagement activities, but nobody wanted to complete the evaluations in the end. So that would mess up our data, because as much as we had attendance numbers to drive our data, it wasn't enough, because we needed to now hear the feedback. And so in that, we have now trained a part of the shift. We've trained our families how important it is for them to share their feedback. And so, with that understanding, we've had to start with data. So, before we plan any events, our parent liaisons are the ones who connect families at the school level. And so, before we start any event, before they do any planning, they must start with data. What was the data from the last feedback that you received from families? What did that data share that was a specific need of those families? Also, in your annual school plan, what does the data speak to? Right? So there are 4 components that every school must use to share in their annual school plan. Attendance is one, ELA, math, SEL is another one. Those 4 components are the areas that parent liaison, school leadership must talk about in identifying the specific student need. Also, when they identify those needs, we do not leave our families in isolation. We bring them in for community meetings. And in those community meetings, we share clear data, specific data, to let parents know what is the goal for that month, what is the goal for that quarter, what is the goal for the entire year with the school. And we have seen results move schools into maintaining what is necessary for the data to speak to families about how we're moving forward to meet those goals. The second thing that we see is connecting the dots when it comes down to data, making sure that the communication that we're sending out to parents will continue to not only keep them engaged and keep them coming back, but it keeps the goals as the forefront as to what it is that we're doing. So making sure that all of the communication we're sending out, all of the engagement activities, everything is forever connected, and it is aligned to the annual school plan, but it is also aligned to priorities that we are looking forward to those schools maintaining. We had to shift even with our leadership, because they were just writing down cute priorities in the annual school plan, and we had to help them understand, no, we want to see that alive. When we come to supervise and visit the schools, we want to see that alive. What we did have to incorporate with the shift this year is more time in the schools. And so it's 4 of us on a team, and we supervise schools. We go in and we're actually making sure that those priorities are alive in the school setting. So we get real-time data, real-time feedback. We provide it, but we also hear from our leadership, from our families in real time as to how these dots are being connected. So again, before those parent liaisons are planning any event, we are making sure that those goals that are a part of that family literacy night, that family math night, that they're actually being connected back to the annual school plan, back to those priorities, back to those goals for the year. The next thing that we see in making data work for us is that we want to make sure that, again, we create those feedback loops. So as much as we take in feedback with our surveys, family tours, our quick chats that we have, we also spend time reflecting on that as a district, as a school community. We take time by designing dates. We call them data dates, where we actually sit down 4 times throughout the school year to discuss that data and how to apply what we have heard, right? So again, our liaisons are not just planning engagement workshops or not just planning engaging activities just that are cute, right? And create great photo ops, but how is this leading us to manage those priorities and cause the school to sustain the goals that they need throughout the school year? So we create those listening circles, we create a time to reflect, we create those times where we can hear, but also we create those times to provide the supports that those schools need. I think a lot of time we don't spend enough time listening to the need, because we don't spend time reflecting. We spend a lot of time moving. But what we've learned in the shift is that we needed time to reflect, right? So we have all this data, but we don't spend time reflecting on it. We don't spend time listening. We don't spend time looking and connecting the dots back to what was already shared. And so we spend time 4 times out of the year where we check in with that data and we reflect on it. And then we come back to the table as the instructional specialists and we share with our parent liaisons. Each of us has 17 schools that we supervise within our network, and we share with our parent liaisons. This is where the strength needs to be. This is what the survey is saying. This is what the quick chats talked about. And this is how we want to sustain what it is that is needed in your particular school or in your particular ward. Then finally, we build capacity together. We spend time to train not just the liaisons on what to do in working that data, but we also spend time training teachers on how to connect with those families, how to connect with the community as a whole. We also spend time training leadership on what family engagement looks like and how to build that capacity together. A lot of times we just assume that our leadership understands how to bridge the gap with families, and we have learned within these last 2 years that that is not so. Many times our leadership spend a lot of time managing well, but not necessarily connecting well. So we built in PD throughout the course of the year to make sure that that our leaderships have the capacity that they need to connect the dots and to move the data in a way that provides them success with making sure that their priorities are being met. So we do take time to empower our staff so that the engagement is not shared. It is not a one-man show, and that is something that we share in all of our schools. That is going to take the entire school locally as well as the entire district to make sure that the work is done. And the work that we're doing is not extra work, but the work that we're doing is work that is necessary, not nice all the time. So the resources that we use to make sure all of this is done, to connect in the top, make sure the data is seen, making sure the data is also heard, is we use 3 quick resources. The first one we use is an action plan. And when you guys receive this presentation, you'll be able to look at the action plan. But the action plan that we use is one that aligns every single workshop, every single activity, every single event to our annual school plan goal. So whatever that priority, whatever that goal is for that school, it is listed inside of this action plan so that our liaisons consistently go back, our families consistently go back and review those SMART goals over and over again for every single event. Also in the action plan, everything that our liaisons need to drive that workshop is also embedded in the action plan. All the partnerships, all the community resources that they may need, everything is embedded in that action plan. So we gave a template of what we use as a way of incorporating the annual school plan with our action plan. I also share a data to dialogue template. So this is what we use with families. And this template is designed for families to walk through data conversations. And so we have opportunity to hear, but it also gives us space to reflect. So we can go back in, make notes. We can go back in and share the need. We can go back in and have further conversations based off of what our families are sharing with us. And then we have a quick feedback form. I also share with you the feedback form that we use across the district, because we want equity. We want to hear North Ward, South Ward, they do things differently, but we want to hear based on not from a biased place, but from a place that speaks volumes, right? To providing us a feedback. So everyone has the same exact feedback form so that we can hear from everyone. And so bringing it all together, right? Understanding that it's about purposeful partnerships for student success. And so making sure that our our families understand that this engagement is not something that's extra, but it's actually an essential move. It's an essential shift that we have to do. And we're learning because it took us 3 years to get to this place we're at now. Now we're shifting into the classroom where we're actually going into to make sure that our teachers understand how essential this move is. We're understanding that the district goals are not separate from the school goals, but that it all works together and it creates a powerful move of improvement. And so making sure at our local schools that they understand that. Also understanding that data helps us to focus. So everything that I've shared with you all today is to make sure that we understand that data doesn't just align us, but it also focuses us on what is necessary. And families deserve to know the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And how is it going to make us successful? So having those times and those moments for reflection. And finally, being strategic to close those gaps. We were strategic in closing the gaps with our liaison, closing the gaps with our leadership, closing the gaps now with our teachers. So making the time that you need to create strategic movements, strategic shifts, strategic blueprints to make sure that all of the gaps are closed. We have our strategic plan that also drives everything that we do. It's a 10-year plan here at our district, and we also uses that to make sure that all of the gaps are closed whenever we are planning for our time together. And so finally, again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to share. I hope this was helpful, and I hope we'll be able to answer questions. This is where you can find me if you need any additional questions answered, or if you want to know a little bit more about how we do things in North. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natasha, Rita. That was such great information and content in such a short period of time. So that was awesome. Thank you so much. So we have just over 10 minutes as a group here together. So I wanted to see, does the group have any questions either for Rita or Natasha?
Yes, hi. My name is Cindy DeJesus, Family Liaison, Massachusetts. I just had a quick question for Natasha. When presenting data to administration, how can we push, or how do you recommend we push forward when it comes to, I believe you spoke a little bit about getting like, you named it reflection, but I always like to say that like we tend to get stuck in theory and we never move from that to that action part. How can we present data in a way that's a little bit more compelling to administration, so that we can kind of get into that doing, so that parents don't feel like, oh, they keep asking for data, they keep asking for all these like surveys and for me to, give my opinion, but then I never see that translated into any of the practice.
Cindy, that's a really good question. And so the way we had to shift in Newark with that is that one, we had to explain, we had to listen to the principals, hear them explain that they don't really have time, right? They're working on data for other components. And so this is like low on the totem pole. And so we had to hear them share that. And then we had to make sure that they understood that parent engagement was essential and that we needed to meet with them. And so what we have planned here in Newark is at the beginning of the school year, we take 2 months, September and October. And again, because we're such a large district, we need those 2 months to do it. And we strategically have what we call leadership meetings with every single principal in our school district. And we meet, what we tell them to do is don't just come to the table by yourself, but we want to meet with you and your entire team that will have some type of hand in engagement, so that it's not just you hearing the data, but it's all the people that will be responsible to make sure that this data turns into action. And so we invite the principal, the vice principal that may be in charge of that parent liaison or that family advocate. We also make sure that academic interventionists at that table, all of the coaches, whether it's ELA, STEM, or math, are at that table. We also ask for the PTA or the PTO, president or vice president, secretary, whoever can come to that. And so we have a roundtable discussion. It's only 20 minutes. It cannot go over 20 minutes because, again, we heard the principals. We wanted to respect their time. And so it's only 20 minutes, and we get in and we hit it and quit it. we have a very strategic PowerPoint that we present with the data about their school only, right? We don't talk about what's going on necessarily in the district. That is like one slide that is, again, very strategic in what we share, but we talk only about the data about their school and how we can support them with family engagement and some of the ideas that they need. We also take the first 3 months with those leaderships and we pre-plan. We pre-plan with them. We give them a whole, and I can share that with you, Sydney, if you would like. We call it Link to Learning. And so we give them a year at a glance of all of the type of family engagement activities and workshops that they can do that's included in ELA, math, STEM, and SEL and attendance. They don't even have to think about it. All they have to do is hear the need of their school based on those evaluations that the liaison is presenting, and then tell us where they would like to plug that in. So all the work is done for them pretty much as the leadership, because they're things they don't have time. They have a lot to manage. So if we can get the forefront of it to make sure that we can turn that into action, that's how we do it here in Newark. And it has been very successful in shifting the mindset, because now it's no more excuses. It's only execution. It's only execution. No more excuses. I hope
Thank
that helps, Sydney.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great question. Ashley, I see you have your hand raised. You have a question?
Yeah, I don't really have as much of a question as a comment. I am from the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley. I'm the director of community school implementation, and just kind of wanted to talk to what Rita was talking about. Our schools are still using what they learned earlier this year. Those things are still coming up in conversations that we have, that I have at the schools monthly. So the impact that you made with the schools that came was just incredible.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for that, Ashley. And little shameless plug, but we're here to help further the conversation if schools want to continue to do some work.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ashley.
I have a quick question too, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So this is probably for both Rita and Natasha. So I work for a CBO and we partner in before and after school programs within our local districts. We sit on some of these advisory board meetings and are involved per grant requirements. But how do you suggest we get better access to the data that's needed for family engagement to make sure that our programs are running smoothly and we're on the same page with our district leaders?
So let me ask a clarifying question, Lindsay. Are you wanting to collaborate with the district to make sure that you're doing providing family engagement that's beneficial to like your organizations as well as the district? I'm just trying to get an understanding of the purpose of the data, what kind of data that you're trying to glean.
Yeah, so I think a big goal of our program is to increase attendance for school. Oftentimes kids go to school to attend after school programs. And for family engagement, oftentimes that's our mission-based work, but also to help increase attendance, increase literacy skills, because we are doing standards-based work at more of an enrichment capacity.
Mm-hmm. So I think an approach that one approach could be to actually confer with the district leadership to say that you would like to have a seat at the table during their school improvement conversations to see how best to link family engagement opportunities back to their school improvement goals. Most school improvement plans require some sort of a literacy goal, a numeracy goal, maybe a STEM, science kind of type goal, behavioral, like in terms of school climate, right? There's some goals there. There's obviously the attendance goals. And many, many more goals that I'm mentioning. In Pennsylvania, there's even a college and career goal, right? And so the way we do our work is we say, okay, let's take a look at what is in these goals that are already established by either the school or at the district level, right? Or both. And let's tie our family engagement activities right back to that goal. So those activities are linked to learning, which is a huge part of the dual capacity framework, right? It's one of the process conditions in the dual capacity framework that helps us understand what we and how we are to work together. The other thing I can offer, Lindsay, is we have at MAEC have developed a family engagement assessment tool around 10 different indicators that allows us to really dive deep, let's say, into one particular, area. And I'll go back to linked learning or building positive relationships. And then we can use that module that needs assessment in that module to also help design family engagement goals that we can again link back to learning, as well as have some standalone goals. Does that help?
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Natasha, did you want to build on that at all? Go ahead.
Lindsay, can you ask that question one more time?
So I guess what I'm asking is more so, how can we make sure that we're getting on the same page as the districts as CBOs when our goals are oftentimes aligned with theirs? We do sit on some advisory meetings, but just to make sure that we're on the same page, meeting those same goals and getting the data that we need to help everybody attain those achievements.
Are you currently what the title that you do? Are you currently connected to the local school or the district level at all? Or do you have any kind of connection or collaboration with the
Yes,
district?
so I'm school district partnership coordinator. So we're currently at 2 different districts in our local community, probably going to be expanding to more in multiple buildings. So we have a really great relationship with one of our districts. It's much smaller. And then the city district that we work with is a much larger district, harder to get a hold of. Admin at each building kind of does things differently. So I'm wondering if for that larger district, because we've attempted at the district level, if maybe we need to go into and do a building by building.
I would suggest, because that's where we get the real-time data and that's where we make the connections to help us collaborate on the district level. Because when you're in a bigger district, it's very hard to make that connection because there's so many different moving parts, right? So what I would suggest is that you do take time to go into the local school and find out who is the connector between the local school and the district level, and then collaborate with that person, whoever that liaison may be, or find out from the district level who is your liaison. Like, for example, for family engagement, it would be me. I'm the person who connects the school to the district. So making sure that you know who all of the players are on the team from the district to be able to give you what you need inside of that local school, or for you inside of the districts, or the sub districts, like they like what we call wards here in North, and how we move them, because the way we move in the North is not the way we move in the South, not the way we move in the West or the East. And all 3 of those districts have assistant superintendents that I report to, or they share information with us as to what's needed in their particular ward and where their even though the whole district has the same priorities and the whole district has the same strategic plan, the way that different schools or different wards roll out their annual school plan or their priorities or their goals may look a little different because of the communities that those districts make up. So you need to know who that connector is in those 2 small areas that you can tap into to get information and for you to also give information. Okay? I hope that helps.
That's very helpful. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, such great questions. We have just about a minute left before we go back into the main room, and then we're gonna go back into another round of breakouts. But thank you so much, Natasha. Thank you so much, Rita. This was really great. We probably could have had another hour, 2 hours together as a group. Excuse me. Any final words, Natasha or Rita, or things you want to leave folks with?
I will say, Natasha, kudos to Newark. Such great work. I'm so impressed with your presentation and what's happening there. It's awesome.
Thank
I think the movement about making sure family engagement is a must-have versus a nice-to-have is starting to take foot. And using the approach of tying it back to school improvement and already existing structures, we have found really makes a lot of sense for districts when we sit down and walk through the process with them and show them how it's aligned to their strategic plans and comprehensive plans. It makes a lot of sense and it kind of lowers the temperature and lowers the anxiety for folks.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much for being my partner today. I really appreciated you.
Yeah.
You made this easy for me. I would say to all that was able to join us today is always remember to keep the students first, right? In everything that you do, remember to keep the student first. How you're making your connections, how you're moving, your strategies, your connections, your collaborations. Always remember to keep the student first because that will help drive why you do what you do, and who you need to talk to and who you need to partner with. Students are first, so then families become essential. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in the main room.
Yep.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It's always interesting when you are doing breakout rooms. But hopefully, your sessions were great. What we know, it's never enough time. What this is meant to do is to provide a taste of what is happening in different parts of our region with the hope that you will follow up and ask more questions. We will have a Google folder in which all of the presentations will be there. Any additional resources that we'll shared will be there. And so you will get that in a follow-up email. But yeah, so hopefully your sessions went great. We are now going to transition into our second round of sessions. We are going to begin right at 11 o'clock and we are going to end at 12 o'clock. So if you have two presentations in your room, that means your presentation is about 20-25 minutes, leaving room for Q&A. If you have three presentations in your room, that means your presentation is about 15 minutes. So with that, we are going to reopen breakout rooms. And if you have any challenges, once again, to access the breakout room, scroll to the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's a button that says more. You should be able to select the breakout room. You'll have to go scroll to the bottom. If you have issues, please, please, please put it in the chat. Presenters, you will be staying in your same room that you were at. All right. Jaden, can you open up the breakout rooms? All right. And if you have issues, please put it in the chat.
Hey, welcome everyone. We'll get started in just a minute or two here. Welcome, welcome. Just another 30 seconds or so and we'll We'll kick things off. We have two great presenters today. Really excited.
Hey Ryan, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Hey, Julie, it has been a while. I saw your name. It was really good to see you.
Happy to be here. It's been busy.
Yeah. Yes. That time.
Hmm.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. So we have two really great mini presentations today. So Rita and Natasha are each going to have about 20 minutes to present. And then we're going to take about 20 minutes after that to ask questions. So please, if you have questions, please jot them down. And then at the end, we'll kind of have an opportunity to ask both Rita and Natasha some questions. So really excited to be able to pass it over to Rita to kick things off.
Actually, Ryan, since I went first last time, I was wondering if Natasha would like to go first this time.
How's that sound, Natasha?
Unless her voice needs a break.
It's okay.
It's okay. Great.
All right.
Okay. Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. We are happy to be a part of this time, and we are looking forward to sharing this presentation with all of you. Can everyone, I hope, can see my screen? I can't see you guys. Okay, excellent. Okay, so my name is Natasha Rouse, and I am an instructional specialist here at the Newark Board of Education. And I absolutely love what I get to do every single day, where I'm given the opportunity to supervise 17 schools, but my district is made up of 64 schools. When I first started in this position, I had the opportunity to supervise all 64, but it became a whole lot. So we have definitely increased in number. It's four of us on our team to govern 64, supervise 64 schools to ensure that family engagement is taking place at those schools. And so for the next few minutes, I will just talk to you about data and how we use it to strengthen family engagement, but to also share with how we use this strategic I call a strategic lever to make sure that family engagement is producing and sustaining, it is sustainable across our schools. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about family engagement and some of the things that we had to do here in Newark. So first of all, right, we had to deal with a shift. We had to go from involvement to engagement. Many of our schools at the time were busy doing involvement. They treated family involvement, as they called it, as a checklist. You know, let's check off that we had a back to school night. Let's check off we had parent teacher conference, rather than it becoming a strategy that can be used to advance the school goals as well as the district goals. And so we weren't seeing our students give the outcome that we wanted with that homeschool connect. And so we needed to do something. So we created a shift about 4 years ago that allowed us to incorporate families to really be involved in this time. And so we decided to share in the shift. What is the why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Because what we noticed was that many of our schools were so busy doing family involvement, the nice way of family engagement, that's what they considered it, that they didn't understand that family engagement was the way we needed to go because it was necessary, right? So getting them to understand that in this hour that we need to move families from just wanting to be involved in the school, but now to actually being engaged with their students' academic journey. And so giving them the why, spending time with our families and helping them to understand the why behind the school goals. Why do we have an annual school plan? Why is this data so necessary? Giving them an opportunity to be engaged in a way that focuses them, but also creates moments students where they understand why we do what we do, and we make it impactful for them so that over time, this parent engagement can be sustained. And it's not something that happens in the year where it's just nice, but it's something that keeps going and we build upon it school by school, ward by ward, and by the district. We wanted to show that students can thrive when their families were seen as someone who was a part of the building process, right? And not just people that were standing on the sidelines in the stands, but that these families were actually involved in the success so that at the end of the quarter, at the end of the school year, we didn't just have students celebrating that they did well on MAP scores or they did on their MAP tests or they did well on the state test, but throughout the year, we're celebrating attendance, we're celebrating SEL, we're celebrating academics, we're celebrating STEM. We actually have the families completely involved in everything that we're doing. So that was the shift, explaining to them not just families, but from the deputy, from the superintendent, from the principals, down to the coaches, down to district leadership, down to everyone that was involved locally in the school, that family engagement is absolutely necessary. That was a major shift for us being such a large district. Then we moved right into actually looking at data and how to make it work, right? So we came up with 4 different moves. Well, I put it in 4 different moves, but the way we moved in our district, the way we made this happen, the way we started to make this shift was we needed to start with data. They call me in my team, they call me the data girl because I like numbers. Now, I don't like numbers to be an accountant. That I don't, okay? And math was not my favorite subject in school. I'm an ELA girl. All right. But I like data because for me, I believe data answers questions. A lot of times we are spinning our wheels and we are trying to figure out what to do next. But if we would review the data, it will tell us what our next move should be. And so what we did was we made sure that we started at the top with hearing our strategic plan and our annual school plan for every single school. So all of the instructional specialists, again, we have 16 to 17 schools that we supervise. Each one of those schools, we have to review the annual school plan for every one of those schools. Just like if I was, when I was a teacher, and I taught inclusion, I had students with IEPs. I had to know that IEP inward and outward to make sure that my student was successful. It's the same on the district level. We read those annual school plans to make sure that our schools are successful in meeting those goals. So that's data number 1. We also make sure that we share simple, clear data with our families. So we let them know at the beginning of the school year, this is the goal of this school. Then we have assistant superintendents because we are broken down into 4 different wards. Our city is extremely big. So we're broken down into 4 different wards. Each one of those wards has an assistant superintendent who understands the strategic plan, but may move things a little differently in their schools. So making sure that they're sharing simple, clear data with their families on how they can connect to those goals that is needed to be sustained over time, but also making sure that the families know how important it is for our students to be successful with those goals. The other thing that we did with this is making sure, right? The next step that we did with this is that we made sure that all of the dots were connected. Goodness, this trying to move this. We made sure that all of the dots were connected. We made sure that we were in alignment with our annual our strategic plan, but also in alignment with our annual school plan, right? Making sure that the work was grounded in that time frame, creating feedback loops, connecting the dots, right? Aligning our annual school plan and in all of our engagement activities to our annual school plan. So as I shared with the last group, we have something called Link to Learning, making sure, right, that all of this information is already shared. So our principals, our liaisons, they don't have to do much. They just have to make sure that they're completing the annual the action plan to make sure, right, that those goals are forever connected throughout the school year. So if literacy is the example that we're using, if literacy is the priority, then we're making sure that we're planning engagement opportunities for families to connect with literacy. We're sharing the data. We're not hiding anything. We're not working in isolation. We are sharing the data with families so they can understand second and fourth graders are not doing very well. This is where they stand. What can you do as a family to come in and help us to connect the dots in moving that forward? And then we also create feedback loops, giving our families an opportunity to share in conversation. One of the things that I shared with the last group is that we don't spend enough time reflecting. We spend a lot of time collecting data, but we don't spend enough time reflecting. One of the things that we did in Newark is that we created what we call data dates, and we design reflection time 4 times out of the year where we come together as a team, as a unit, whether it's at the district level or the local school level, and we listen to the feedback, we review the feedback, we participate with the feedback, and we look at the needs that the feedback gives us. Where do we get this feedback from? We have surveys that go out throughout the year, and not too many that it becomes something that families don't want to be bothered with, but we have enough surveys that keeps the voice of the family alive. We have family tours, we have quick chats so that we can hear from families, but that we can also hear from teachers, hear from leadership, hear from our superintendent. We listen to our PTO presidents and what they have to say throughout the school year as well. And so this way, our activities, our events, our engagement moments are always being refined because they're being put in positions to provide supports to families and not just something that's nice, but it becomes something that is necessary. And then finally, we build capacity together. We don't allow any of our schools to do this work by themselves, but we create tools that families need. We help them create those workshops, those resources that the families need to support learning at home. Our back to school event that we do is huge, but when they come to that back to school event, they're not just picking up a book bag and they're leaving. They're actually engaging in resources and opportunities in workshops that can be done at home. And when they leave with a backpack full of supplies, not just to carry to school, but you can use everything in this backpack immediately when you get home to be able to connect to what you're going to learn in school. And parents get these things throughout the year. We just did a men's empowerment breakfast for our fathers across the district, and every father left with a huge bag full of manipulatives for math, for ELA, for STEM, math facts. They also left with a resource packet on how to use these things at home, right? Because we weren't trying to create something nice. We were trying to create something that was necessary. And again, we're talking about 64,000 students that make up our district. So we're going to see about 10,000 fathers at this event. And yeah, it costs a lot of money to get it done, but it's necessary work. So resources then become important, right? And those resources that we use are very simple, strategic, and we share them. We do not create a lot of extra work for those that we collaborate with because they already have enough work to do. So again, our work is very strategic in what we do. So we have a family engagement action plan. And that action plan is aligned to the ASP, which is our annual school plan. So therefore, everything that we're sharing with our liaisons, it's already connected at the district level, and it just continues to give them what they need to stay in alignment, but to also become strategic at their own school to meet the needs. We also give them something called a data to dialogue template, and this creates a template where we can hear from families, right? So all of the data, when we come together with families and we're doing our family chats, when we're doing our parent tours, we use this data to dialogue so that we can pick up immediate data from our families. And it also gives us a way to reflect immediately. And also it gives us a way to go back to the table and look at those notes and create notes right there on the paper. We also have what we call a quick family feedback form. Every single school gets the same form because we want to hear what is happening in every ward, not with biases, but in every ward at a way that we believe it's equitable. So every school gets the same feedback form so that we can hear where we need to fill in the gaps across the wards and across the district. And then finally, what we have also learned in bringing it all together is that every single collaboration, every single partnership that we do, it is absolutely necessary. And it lets us know that family engagement is not something extra that we do. That was a major shift that we had to share with our principals and our leadership for them to understand like family engagement is not extra work. It's not this new thing that we're doing, we're adding to your plate. No, family engagement is essential. If you want to see your goals met, if you want to see your students succeed, if you want to see parents involved in your school, this is absolutely necessary. And I believe 3 years later, we have seen great stride and great results in that work. We also shared with them to in order to stay focused on this work so you don't get pulled in so many directions or you try to go back to making family engagement, family involvement. We have also shared with them how to use data to stay focused and to create a dialogue that helps families to connect with you. And finally, strategic engagement, it helps to close gaps. So not doing all of this work in a way that is just checking boxes, but doing work to make sure that we are strategically involved. It will help to close the gaps to make sure that our students are successful and remain successful. And so as we move forward, again, thank you all so much for your time. I hope that this was helpful. And I hope that you all will share in questions and feedback as we continue to do this work. Make sure that you remember to stay connected with all of your partners, all right? Because they know how to empower the staff, both in local or in district level, to do what is necessary for our students and for our families. So again, my name is Natasha Rouse, and I have enjoyed being with you all on today. If there is something that we can do to help you, this is our contact, and we look forward to speaking with you all again later on in this presentation. Rita, it's on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. I appreciate that. Um, so let's get this on up here. And so the title, oops, and that's not how I wanted to do it. Let's do that. Why is it going to presentation mode? Do you see the full screen or do you see presentation mode, Ryan?
See presentation mode. Yeah.
Oh, that's really odd. Okay.
If
I don't know
you
why it's doing that.
the icon to the far on the bottom to the right.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using.
Okay, that was going to presentation mode. Okay.
And I don't know why it's going to presentation mode. So let me try to do, well, we'll just keep it here.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll just go from here if that's okay with everyone. I don't know why it's behaving this way now. We were fine. We were fine earlier. So, as you can see, my title of my presentation is exactly the same as Natasha's. We did not collaborate or plan on that, but this is how we think, and this is where we are. So here we are again to talk to you about family engagement as a school improvement lever. Before I get into the content, I just want to share this disclaimer with you that the presentation of this content was developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education, and that the contents of this grant does not represent the views or the policy or the endorsement expressed or materials provided by any federal agency. So in essence, our thoughts are our own. My name is Rita Perez. I'm a project director at MAEC, which is a non-educational nonprofit headquartered in Bethesda, Maryland. We do needs assessment and continuous improvement work all over the country. And as the project director for CAFE, the CAFE work is focused in Pennsylvania and Maryland, but again, as I said, we are all over the country, Mid-Atlantic region, but through this grant, we can focus on family engagement work in these two states. I also want to let you know that at MAEC, we are the host of a second federal grant for the parent, the Family Engagement Center in Maine. So we have the fortunate opportunity to be working intensely in 3 states that all have some sort of community school context in them. So that's really exciting. Our definition of family engagement, this is important because it kind of helps ground our thinking of the way we do our work. But we believe family engagement is a collaborative partnership between schools, families, and communities that embraces and relies on diverse strengths, cultures, and experiences to create a supportive environment where every student can thrive. Within that definition, and as part of that definition, we have 3 elements that we try to bring out. We want to affirm the role as families and partners. We believe that this approach builds a school community that values and includes every family's input. We want to make sure that family engagement is enriching learning and well-being. So this ensures that families are equipped to support their child's academic and emotional success. And then finally, we want to strengthen community relationships. And that's this collaboration that creates a strong support network for families and student success. And really critical part of the work that you do is community schools and bringing in community partners. So family engagement as a school improvement lever. Natasha talked about many of these things already, but I just want to put it out there that the research says that family engagement improves student outcomes. It strengthens trust. Trust is the first thing that we have to work on, right, when we're building relationships with our families. We want to support equity and inclusion. We want to align support across environments so that parents can see the through line and how things are connected and how the school works. We want to enhance the effectiveness of school improvement plans. So we really want to leverage the thoughts and ideas from families as we're building school improvement plans, but we want to make sure that the work that we're doing in family engagement is directly linked back to goals that are identified in a district level strategic plan as well as school-based plans. We tend to approach our work in Cat Cafe. We like to work at the district level because we believe that once we have that commitment at the district level to engage in high impact family engagement, then that sends a signal to schools that they have permission, right? So if the district level isn't supporting something, schools are going to be pretty hesitant to engage. So as part of the school improvement process, we engage in a continuous improvement process. And many of you may have already seen this or do something similar in other settings. Plan, do, study, act, or plan, do, check, act. And if you're not familiar with it, it really was something that was originally used in business and is now transferred over to education. Probably, I would say in the early 90s, that transformation started to happen when there was more accountability and we had standards-based systems and school districts were starting to get put on school improvement lists and things of that nature. However, because we are an equity-based organization, we want to make sure that the work we're doing is centered in that frame. So see, the continuous improvement wasn't designed with equity in mind. So what is CI3 or continuous improvement for equity? And how is that different from typical cycles, right? So our process recognizes how power, privilege, and social context affect school teams and their work. We want to make sure that we're fostering an inclusive and equitable space to promote positive social change. And then we want to make sure that the work that we're doing is working to dismantle systemic inequities that affect students. In the context of the community school work, that's really important and interesting in this frame, all 3 of those, because you come from a certain perspective that when you're doing your work and taking your seat at the table with schools. So if you're not already a member of your school's school improvement team, this is a good time to approach that school leadership and say, I think I could be a valuable part of this and it would help us align our work together, right? It would help bring the work that you're doing as a community school partner back into the school, especially those community schools that host, after school programming and a plethora of after school programming. And so our framework looks like this, right? You have the CI3 in the center, and then we have three pillars: representation, structure, and process, all of which we ask a series of questions that help us do six things, excuse me. Uh, Help us understand the system, help us create a collaborative and diverse team, help us determine an aim or a goal, help us design a theory of improvement, test interventions, and convene a network to kind of give us that network is the network to kind of help provide transparency into the process, right? So that we're communicating what we're doing. So what I want to do is talk to you and give you a concrete example of some work that we've done with community schools. I live in Pennsylvania, in eastern Pennsylvania, in an area called the Lehigh Valley. We're just north of Philadelphia. And we have the good fortune in the Lehigh Valley of having the United Way of the greater Lehigh Valley be a champion of community schools and support the community schools here. So me and my colleague Jessica, was presenting in another session. We engaged with the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley, and they brought together the five schools that the school districts, excuse me, that they're supporting. Three urban, the big urban centers here in the Lehigh Valley, as well as two rural. So we had a nice mix of folks in the room. And what we did was we wanted to make sure that there were equitable family engagement opportunities in all of the schools, right? And the group that we worked with was community school leaders, building administrators, and family-facing professionals. And you might say, oof, that's not a very diverse team if you're just having those. Where were your parents? Where were these? Um, and that's fair, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So the work that we did with them was first, we really took a look at Pennsylvania's family engagement standards. We have state level standards in our state. And we did a gap analysis with those standards to see what programs were currently in place and where there might be some gaps. And the approach that we use in our work is we don't want to come in and just have people start things all over again. We want to start where they are and help them build out stronger programs. So we really do take a look at what's existing, what's working, how does it align, and how can we maybe ramp it up so that it's linked better to learning, or that it provides low impact and high impact opportunities for parents. There's a lot of needs assessments that we do around just the existing family engagement efforts. We integrated the community schools family asset and needs assessment data into the process. So we use some of the existing data that was already there to help folks understand what their needs were. And for us as being there to support them, for us to really understand what was happening there. We provided training to folks on how to create a diverse team so they could further that work when they got back to their schools, individual schools. And one of the things I want to say about this diverse team piece is that I would encourage folks to use existing systems like Zoom meetings to help encourage collaboration and attendance by folks from community-based organizations or parents, or other folks that may not be able to meet directly in the room face to face to do that. But also recognize that you can have families and caregivers on your team who may not be able to attend many meetings, or may only be able to watch one or two, be able to see a recording of a meeting. But there are ways to get information from them and have them be a valuable part of the team sitting at the table. And one of those ways is through something called empathy interviews, where you can design questions to really help elicit from parents what their needs are and what their thoughts are in helping to build out goals and actions related to those goals. So we align aims. We look at that data and we align aims into existing school improvement goals around attendance, behavior, and academics. Again, we believe that family engagement is a must-have, but we don't want to put a burden on already busy school administrators. I'm a 30-year retired school administrator, so when I say already burdened, I say it from experience, and the work that we do is really generated from that experience as practitioners. Um, so we take existing school improvement goals, we study those, we take a look at them, and we align all of our work right back to what's in existence to help build family engagement opportunities that link back to those goals, directly back. We identify patterns and priorities, and then we begin building that plan, do, study, act plan and linked it back to the community school alignment plan that is already in place, that the schools in the Lehigh Valley, the community schools are already using to do planning and improvement. Some of the challenges in implementing CI for E, when we're relying on district data, it's not always designed to gather feedback on family engagement. Having to learn and understand the data for different systems takes time and resources. Data from one district to another is not always compatible or comparable. Family surveys don't always allow for a high degree of data disaggregation. Many surveys don't ask for stakeholder race, much like the other demographic information. And there's some bureaucracy in school districts that can slow down the process of getting data because, of course, we want to make sure the data is protected and, de-identified and that we have data sharing agreements and we're going through all of those pieces to safeguard the data. As a result of some of these challenges that we've experienced, we've actually developed a series of tools at MAEC that we use to assess family engagement. We have a series of 10 modules and 10 categories with topics such as transitions, linked to learning, building trusting relationships, welcoming schools, that we can use to help assess how and what schools are doing. And we also do some data collection around the level of impact the family engagement has. Is it low or high impact? The time of year, again, alignment to standards, if there are state standards available, and some other tools that we have to help really identify where the strengths are and where the areas of need are. Through this process, we have been able to bring not only these 5 community schools, which is really exciting to be able to work with 5 districts at one time to do the work, but other schools across the Commonwealth into an understanding around how they can use CI for E and family engagement as a school improvement lever. So we're really excited about that this work is growing in Pennsylvania and it's starting to grow in Maryland as well. And so here is my contact information, as well as information to visit our website. If you have any questions, you want more information, you want to just talk about how we might be able to support you, you can reach me at Rita at MAEC. We have an evaluation here. QR code. I would ask that you link to it and complete the evaluation for us because we need your feedback to inform our own internal continuous improvement efforts. And your feedback also helps us inform and report back to the federal government. As I said, we are a federally funded family engagement center, and we are one of the 18 programs that is going to be in of the block grant that's going out to states. And now I will turn it over to Ryan or I guess any other questions for Natasha and myself.
Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you so much, Natasha. Such great presentations. I know somebody asked previously, I believe Jolene is going to be collecting presentations and going to share them back out with the group.
Yes.
So you should be able to have access to that in the future.
Okay.
But we have a little bit of time together still. So, I want to make sure that we are able to engage in some discussion and maybe start by any questions either for Rita and or Natasha.
I have a question for Natasha. That's okay. Hi, Natasha. Julie Borst, the co-director of the New Jersey Institute for Community Schools. I head up Save Our Schools New Jersey, board chair of the New Jersey Community School Coalition, and a good friend of Roger Leon. So, yay, right. So I'm just curious, just by way of background for everybody else in the room, the National Organization Communities and Schools came to Newark a couple of years ago with $1 million grant to turn I think 20 schools into their version of a community school, highly focused on the integrated student support pillar. And I'm just curious, out of those set of schools, and this is the end of the second year, I was there for the readout after the first year, the first 5 schools. They were focused on chronic absenteeism and double-digit drops in chronic absenteeism in those 5 districts in those years. And doing something that I thought was actually was really smart was the site coordinators were formerly the folks in the building who were there for what was essentially more like a truancy role, as opposed to a let's figure out what's going on role. And even in that first year to see such great numbers, and I'm just curious, are any of the schools that you're working with any of those pilot schools with CIS?
Yes, so I do on my roster, I do have 2 community in schools that I do work with and I do supervise. They, again, as you have shared, Ms. Julie, they have done remarkable work with their attendance. We definitely continue to see those numbers decreasing and more parent engagement around attendance. They do have a parent liaison as well as a community in school representative at their school as well. That's making sure that the work remains aligned to the strategic plan as well as the community and schools prerequisites as well as the expectations.
Right, very good. Thank you. I was just curious about that. Just because I know the CIS work continues in about I think they're in 26 or 27 states now. And when we're hoping to help them expand some of that work in New Jersey, but I just feel like that family engagement piece of it, they seem to be pretty good at that. And they come with their own data collection system. So can I ask you, so for the data that you're collecting, is that aligned with them? Are they able to align that with you?
So
Are there overlaps happening there?
So the data that I collect is for parent engagement, the way we do it as the district on a whole,
Okay.
not necessarily community and schools,
Mhm.
but does the data that we collect overlap, or does it help lead in conversations, discussions as to what can happen in those community and schools and where there is a need? Absolutely. So we do share the data. In my department, we do not hide data, we share it
Okay.
so that we can continue the necessary conversations that's
Right.
needed across the district. It does all work together, but not necessarily are we all sitting at the same tables discussing this
Okay.
together. But we do work with the school on a whole. So we
Mhm.
do have those kinds of conversations.
Great. That's great to hear. Thank you thank you for indulging me in the New Jersey nerd world.
No problem, no
Because we're
problem.
hoping to be able to share some of these stories outside of the district, because I feel like at this point there isn't anybody telling those stories statewide.
Yeah.
So this is our role is to continue to do that, but maybe even with a louder voice at this point with the help of St. Elizabeth. But okay. Yep, very good. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
No
Appreciate it.
problem. No problem.
Question. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jamie. I'm a community school coordinator through United Way of Greater Lehigh Valley. I'm over here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Um, and my question was, I guess it's for Natasha, how would, or how does your district measure the impact of family engagement? Before you had said that sometimes family engagement seems more like a to-do checklist and you just check it off that you did it, and it just seems like it's not impactful. So in the data that you're sharing with your teams, are you also measuring the impact as far as what education was sent out to the parents? Like, how did they feel about it? Or is it just we did an engagement and that was it?
Thank you so much for the question, Jamie. So we do measure impact. A couple of years ago, when we made the shift, I designed a logo for my team, and it's actually called Impact, because I wanted to make sure that the work that we did, that it was always impactful. I hate wasting time. And so if I was going to be on this team and I was going to help lead it, I wanted to make sure that our time was very well spent and it was more importantly impactful to the audience that we were going to meet. So we do measure impact every single month. Our parent liaisons have to turn in their attendance numbers as well as their feedback forms for every single event, whether it was a workshop, whether it was a literacy night, math night, family night, whatever it was, they have to turn in their attendance. After that month is over, we come together quarterly with our liaisons. I meet with my liaisons every month. Not all of the instructional specialists do the same, but I meet with mine every month. And one of the things that we talk about is the impact. We look at the data to see how impact was for that month. So where do I get that information from? Let's say it was a family literacy night and there were only 2 people that attended, but then there was a math night or there was a math workshop and we have 54 parents attend. So my question to the liaison is, what was the difference in your planning and your strategy and your impact that the families did not enjoy literacy night because they didn't come, but they enjoyed the math night? What did you do that was so different? What types of strategic or intentional things did you do? Was it two-way communication? Was it the invitation, the way it looked? Did you bring other parents in to participate in the collaboration? That's all those, the planning is impactful, right? We can't just look at the end result as it showing forth that that's the impact. From the beginning of the planning to the end, we want to see the impact. And that comes from strategic work as well as intentionality. So we measure it not just with that end result, but throughout the entire ordeal. The end result is what tells us what was the work that was done to make it impactful. So that's one of the things we do. We also do feedback forms after every single event. And we hear what the families have to say. And the questions are very intentional. And one of the questions, it asks, what is something else you would like to learn? That's one of the questions. And another question is, what could we have done differently with this workshop? Now, some people don't want to ask those things because they really think they the bomb and, they're doing it all good and everything is wonderful. And so nothing we did is wrong. Yeah, no, we want to know. So we ask that question on purpose. And that's not the last question, because by the time families get to the last question, they over it. They just clicking buttons. That's one of the first questions. What could we do differently? What else would you have wanted to see? We just did a men's empowerment breakfast for our entire district. And that was one of the questions. And a few of the fathers said, we want this all the time. So we had a great number of fathers that came out. I would have said, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore because I really was expecting this amount of people and I only got this. But the fathers like, no, do this again. So that lets me know this was something impactful and we need to continue with that. All right. So those are the ways we kind of measure impact, those surveys, and our attendance numbers and the process as to how we create these events. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? That was a really great question.
I'm sorry, Brian, did you ask a question? I have to go off camera for a second.
Oh no, I asked the group if they had any additional questions, but if not, I do have a question. So I think I think one of the things that resonated with me, I think between both presentations is that you weren't just collecting data, like you had specific strategies to like connect and build community with families. So I'm wondering if you could talk, Rita, I know you talked about like empathy interviews, and Natasha, you talked about a variety of strategies, quick chats and other strategies, right? I'm wondering if you could talk just a little bit more about both the successes, but also maybe some of the challenges with some of those engagement interviews and processes, and just we know how impactful those conversations are, but we also know that sometimes they can be challenging to coordinate and facilitate and all of those things. So we'd love to just hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So with the empathy interviews, as I had talked about before, what we really want folks to do when they're doing something like that to reach out and get input from families is we want them to reach out to the families that you sit there and you go, oh, I wish they would come in. I wish they would come to these things. I wish this family would come. I wish they would show up. I wish they would call. Or the family who, you want to engage with the family who's calling you upset and hanging up the phone on you. You do want to engage with those families because something's not working for them, right? And we need to find out what that is. So with empathy interviews, we really ask our building principals to reach out to those families that are hard to reach or are not satisfied with the system, as much as we're asking them to reach out to, the regular host of families that are, always coming to the events, or the parents that are always volunteering, right? You want all of it. And you want to do that data collection in a systemic way. So you're asking the same questions. You're recording them in some sort of a form so that you can do data now, because that's data, right? That's data that can come out and you can grab themes from that. So when we worked with another district in Pennsylvania, relatively medium-sized urban district in Pennsylvania, we had all of their building principals. They have about 14 buildings. The building principals reach out to 5 parents, right? So 14 times 5, that's a lot of information. And we were able to do some analysis of that information to come up with the themes. And so we did that work for them, so we could bring it back to the table and share it with them. And I would like to also concur with everything Natasha said about impact. One of the things that we recommend everything that Natasha says, everything. But when we're talking about those exit interviews, it is really important. Those exit surveys, it's really important that the district or the schools have something that's consistent if you're at a district level and doing district level work, that have a consistent feedback form so that you can aggregate and disaggregate the data, right? And take a look at something might be working swimmingly in the schools on the east end of town, and it's flopping terribly on the schools on the west end of town. And that's that culturally responsive piece to understand both ends of town might be having a family math night, for example, right? Which lots of schools do, but they may not be able to implement it the same way because the parents and the caregivers in the community are, it's contextual, right? It's based on context and the people that you're serving in that community. So we have to be really thoughtful about that when we're thinking about impact. And then I encourage folks to tack on a question or two, almost like an exit ticket for a raffle or something. What is something you learned and you're going to do right away? And what do you need more information about, or whatever? And that can, encourage people to maybe submit the exit ticket, and then do the feedback survey, kind of using a QR code that might be around the place, and people can quickly pull it up on their phone. Most people have phones that will allow you to access that, and have paper and pencil available as well. Like, make sure there's multiple modalities of collecting feedback from folks, because some people may not want to use their phone, or may have forgotten it, or the battery's running low and they want to save space, all of those issues that I have on a daily basis of forgetting phones and not charging my phone and all of that. So I think the making sure that you have those multiple modalities, considering language, if you have folks whose English is not their first language, try to ensure that you're providing them with the information in the language in which they're most comfortable. So having translators, there's devices now that you can purchase that will help with that, as well as having, somebody there in person. And don't forget American Sign Language, as a piece. I think that sometimes is forgotten. So we want to make sure that we're surveying our parents and allowing them to access that. Have your events be able to provide parents with multiple ways to engage. Some parents can only do things on Zoom because they're running from this practice to that practice to this rehearsal and trying to get food in their kids, mouths. At the same time, but they'll be happy to listen to the call, right? And engage with it that way. Record the events if you can and post them on your website. That's another kind of thing that we say. So I'll be quiet and let Natasha add.
That's okay, Rita. Thank you. That's amazing. And I concur with all of that. We do those things in Newark. And I think that this topic is so broad and it can open up so many different areas that we can explore, to provide help and feedback to. And to answer Ryan's question about being able to connect strategically with families, and what were some of the things that worked and some of the things that didn't work. I would start off with those things that posed a challenge at times. One of the things that gave us a challenge was that sometimes parents just didn't want to talk. So when we wanted them to provide information, they didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about something else, or they didn't want to talk at all. And so, like Rita shared, we had to wind up giving out raffles and food and, whatever it takes to get them to talk. We wind up putting those things in places, so that they would be able to share. And we didn't want them just to share. We wanted them to be honest, right? So there's a difference. What we've learned in shifting our families is that some of them will share, and it doesn't even make sense. They don't even believe half of what they're sharing about. They just wanted to participate or to be in the room to say that they were present, but it wasn't honest. And so it did not help our data. It actually tainted it. Our data did not become real. And so we had to shift our families and our schools locally to understand that we want authentic data. We want authentic conversations from our families. We don't want you to do the dog and pony show where you pick the same. That was the other thing that we realized, is that they were picking the same 10 families, right? To always be the spokespersons. Absolutely not. Right? You have 700 something kids in your school, and it's the same 10 families at everything, the same 10 families having this conversation, the same 10 families filling out the feedback form. So no, we wound up putting a stop to that. We also had families that just would come because they wanted to be whistleblowers, right? So they really weren't coming to the events to be engaged. They were coming to the events to tell district or the principal, whoever they could that they thought had authority, this ain't going on at the school. This not working. This is terrible. And we had to explain to families, that's not what this is for. This is a homeschool connect. So if you're coming to learn strategies and ways to improve your student at home so they can be able to do what they need to do at school, this is why we want you to participate here. We also saw that parent liaisons didn't feel connected to the information that was being shared. A lot of times the parent liaison was an extra clerk and not necessarily that person that was connecting families to the activity. And they were too busy being attendance workers, clerks, even though that's not their job. That's just what principals pulled them to do. And so they weren't able to do their job, right? And connect families to those events. We also had issues with technology. Sometimes the computers worked, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they turned on, sometimes they did not turn on. Sometimes families decided they didn't want to do the QR code because they didn't know where. This was our favorite line. I don't know where that's leading me to. I don't know where that's going. I'm not doing that. No, put some paper down. So we do, like Rita said, we have multiple ways of families being able to sign in. And then we have in the North Ward and the East Ward, most of our families that speak different languages are in those wards. And so whenever we go to those wards, we have to make sure we have translating devices, or everything that we present has to be translated in their native language, because we were finding out that families weren't coming out because they didn't, we only spoke English and they did not understand what we were saying. We are grateful for modern technology that allows them to have, different translating devices on their phone. But even in that, it just wasn't helpful. We do have one of the schools I supervise is a deaf school, which I absolutely love. And I went this year to their, actually last week, to their final, they call it their culminating day of activities. And I just felt so out of place this year. Normally I'm good, but this year I felt so out of place because this year there was no talking. It was all ASL. And I told some of the girls on my way out, I said, I have to take a class this year because I feel out of place. I want to be able to participate, but I can't because I know a little bit of ASL, and not enough to keep the conversation going, especially with the students and the family. So that prompted me to do more. Now, what works well is that we target families, we target teachers, target classes. When we hear from our superintendent what classes are not doing well, we go into those schools and we look for second and fourth graders, third and fifth grade, whatever it is, to target, to make sure that there are family engagement opportunities open for those schools and those teachers and those classes. And we build a community of feedback, so that building that culture in that community where families and staff and students know how to give feedback and want to share feedback. And those seem to be the strategies that help us to stay connected throughout the school year and sustain family engagement. I hope that was helpful.
No, that was great. Thank you so much. And we got Jamie put a question in the chat. How can we continue engagement with parents throughout the summer if in-person or virtual events are not feasible? Any thoughts about that?
Yep, I can start on that one, and I might end up saying something a little controversial. But one of the things I would encourage after each of your events that you take the time to reflect and make notes on what worked, what didn't work, what you would change for the following year, and do it with your planning committee as soon after the event as possible so you remember. I'm a former building principal, and I made sure I did that because I wouldn't remember the following year. Oh gosh, what was that we said we were going to do? And I didn't write it down on my agenda and keep it in my folder for planning purposes. So make sure you do that. Number one. Number two, I think number one, survey your parents and find out what they want to, how, if they want to be engaged in the summer. And two, what topics would they be interested in being engaged in the summer? Because summer can pose, lots of different challenges and logistical challenges for families. And then the controversial piece would be take a breath in July. Just take a breath and go over all of your family engagement. Look at those, take the time to go back through the whole year and see what's going on. Most likely by July, you already have a good idea of what you're going to be doing in the following year, when that's going to be, the dates and all that. But you have to get into the details of planning. Use July to do that when it's kind of quiet. It's a little quieter, depending on if you have summer programming in your program. But it's a little quieter and it gives you that time to kind of reflect and focus on that. And then engage in back to school activities, in August, because that's when people are really starting to ramp up and think about it. They're not really thinking about it in June after school's over and in July, but August comes around and people are starting to think. So, I think having opportunities for people to come in person as well as on Zoom, I think, or virtual, whatever platform you use, um, I think is important. When families are transitioning into your building, like if you're in a community school, and you're going to have new students coming in the beginning of the year, have an orientation program in August, so parents understand what a community school is and what you do and how you integrate with your family. I think that helps parents understand your programming, helps ease some fears, It helps parents understand that oh, there's after school programming available, there's summer programming available. Oh, you have a health center here. This is amazing. How do I access? How do you use it? So build those kinds of things in and for the summer. That's my 2 cents.
So I know we're getting ready to go. I hope it doesn't cut off, but what I would say, if there is no in-person or virtual events that are feasible, one of the things that we do here in Newark, Jamie, is we send our kids home with a summer what resources, right? So if there is no in-person or virtual events, the families go home from pre-K all the way up to high school with something that they can use to keep the knowledge going. So across the district, we have our summer reading packets that go home with everything they need in regards to reading. Our pre-Ks, they receive this huge backpack. It's clear. It has all kinds of stuff inside of it, along with directions, right? Because a lot of times we send stuff home with our kids, but we don't share with them or families how to use it. So they receive the instructions that's needed. Again, at the Father Summit, I gave fathers a huge book bag full of stuff that they can use with their students as well, along with those resources, so that they will know what to do with it and that it just won't go to waste. So I think being intentional when you know that in-person and virtual events are not feasible all throughout the school year, right? Going back to your annual school plan, looking at that data. What is it that we are gearing up for the new school year? Our annual school plans are already done in Newark for next year. So we kind of know where we're going in those local schools, having that closeout meeting with our principals, which we do now. We finished ours last week. This is the direction we're going in. So now making sure that these are the packets that are going home, right, with our families, because when they come back, they should be ready because we sent them out with what they need to start the year off strong. So I think putting those things in place, but again, looking at that data and knowing, I think that that will help when there are no in-person or virtual events that.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are how by a show, I can see you all, so if you can come off camera, that would be great. By a show of hands or the reaction emojis, who learned something or was inspired by what happened in the breakout session that you attended? Yes? Okay, yay, that's good. Does one or two people want to share either an aha moment that they had that they are walking away with the larger group?
I'll
Melissa,
say something. Can you
up,
hear
Cora,
me? Oh,
yep,
hi.
Cora, and then Melissa.
Um, I learned that everyone is aware of the need to create a community environment for the kids, for the families, and that everybody is working at every level. And it was inspiring because I didn't realize the amount of programs and amount of different organizations that's coming together to make coming to school and living in the same community better, and that it's diverse and everyone is considering, how can we be aligned, how can we make things better, because these kids are our future, and how can we incorporate their opinions in decisions that impact them directly. And I like the idea that we understand teachers aren't connected to the engagement piece that we're striving for, that was missed probably in their learning, because their focus is accomplishing that goal of teaching versus building a relationships. They probably learn to stay away from that, just focus on the job. But we're humans, we all have a heart, stuff happens. So it was very inspiring to hear all the different things that's incorporated in the next steps and things that we can take on and do differently to make it a better, Northeast region or whatever. So thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much. Melissa?
Yeah, I I was inspired and sort of made my brain start thinking that even though we don't have any funding for our network and for statewide work, any sustainable funding, that there are a lot of things that perhaps we can be doing to sort of start building that case for support, if you will, that aren't related to funding. There were a couple of slides in the breakouts that I went to. I went to 5 and 6. There were a couple of slides in 6 in particular that talked about action steps that you can do even absent funding. That's, I guess, more specifically, that's not about funding.
I love that. Yes, yes. You don't need money to work together to say, how might we do this better to support our youth and students and families? That's a conversation. It takes time, right? But it's time well spent so that when you do get the funds, you can actually operationalize it. And then the motive for speaking with folks isn't because, hey, I got this pot of money, right? It changes the dynamic in a relationship. So thank you everyone so much for sharing, and thank you to all of our presenters. We will have a Google Drive folder with all of the resources that the presenters have and toolkits that we will share with you all. And we have also recorded um, the sessions as well, in which we'll clean it up. Some may be a little choppy from the beginning. Fully recognize the first transition was a little tough, but we recorded the second round through. So kind of the next phase that we are going into is that, we've done a lot of speaking at you. Hopefully your sessions were engaging and you were asked a lot of Q&A, but we just want to have a little bit of informal conversation based off of roles. So we're going to do some role alike networking, and then there's a few questions that we want you to kind of be responsive to. Introduce yourself in the chat. Because of the number of participants, everyone isn't going to have time to, introduce themselves. But some of the things in which we want you to talk about is really, how are you currently supporting community schools and family engagement? And if that's too big of a question, how are you currently supporting students and families? What does that look like? What is going well? How can your position or expertise be leveraged to do more, to strengthen it, to spread it, to scale it? And then if there's anything that you're particularly accomplished or that you're happy about, whether it's an accomplishment or a celebration that you want to share, and perhaps you want to share a little bit into the how to, feel free to share that. So we're going to spend about 20 minutes in breakout rooms having these conversations. It's informal. Please come off camera. We know there's lots of expertise in the room outside of just the presenters. And so we really want to create a space for you to connect. And so, Jaden, if you can open up the breakout rooms, we'll come back at around 12:25 or 12:26 at this point. All right, so feel free to jump in a breakout room. And if you need help and support, just put it in the chat and we will get you in the right room.
Hey everyone. Afternoon. We have a good sized group, but I think we could probably do maybe a quick round of introductions. Um, Ryan Hurley, I'm the Midwest director for IEL and the Coalition for Community Schools. I have the opportunity to work alongside Jolene. Can I pass it to Tracy?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tracy Allen, and I am the Family and Operations Coordinator here in Camden, New Jersey. So I work for the Camden City School District.
You want
Oh,
to
am I passing it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Tyra. I'm gonna pass it to Miss Rivera.
Hi, sorry. You might have said my name. My internet's terrible. Which is funny because we just did a presentation. My name's Tara Rivera, and I'm the Family Partnerships Coordinator here at South Portland Middle School in South Portland, Maine. Thanks for having us. Thanks, Tracy. And I will pass it off to Cortland.
How you doing? I'm a community engagement coordinator, parent and community engagement coordinator for NSIPA Cyber School. So I'm on the cyber environment. That's virtual school, remote learning for people, just to break it down to you. I'm going to pass it on to Missy.
Hi, my name is Misty. I'm a family advocate for, actually, I don't work for community schools. I work for a Head Start program in upstate New York. And I'll pass it to Sally. Have you gone yet?
I haven't. Hi, everyone. My name is Sally. I'm a family engagement specialist. I'm actually not a community school um, at the moment, but we're going to have a lot more in my district kind of coming up. So I just wanted to join to learn. And I guess I'll pass it to Maria.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Romero, and I actually work with Sally in Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland. I'm also a especially family engagement specialist, and I do not have currently a community school, but I will have it next year. So I wanted to get more information and more input so that I can support the best. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Cindy.
Thank you. My name is Cindy DeJesus. I am a family liaison for Boston Public Schools. And I am going to pass it to Jade.
Hi, yes, this afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Jade Lyles Gilchrist. I am a family engagement specialist. My colleagues are Sally and Maria with Montgomery County Public Schools. I support 4 schools, one of which is a community school, and I have a great relationship with the community school liaison here. And the middle school that I support will be a community school next year. And so I look forward to, at least for the summer, um, working with the new community school liaison that will be coming on board. And I will pass it to, oh my gosh, who hasn't gone? Is it Cameo? Cameo.
So give me 1 second as I share Ianca's
Sure.
camera.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Cameo Watson. I am an extended day, extended year coordinator with the City of Philadelphia. Site coordinator for Pierce Elementary. And I'm going to pass it to Miss Macedo.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Bianca, and I am the EDY, just like Camo, coordinator for Farrell Elementary School with the Mayor's Office of Education. And I will pass to, by the way, our program is really focused on out of school time. So, yeah, I don't know if there was anyone else from my office here but Camo. So have Daniele Palmito, you're up next.
Danielle?
Yes. Yeah.
Danielle?
Daniele?
Might have some audio issues. Chris.
Hello, good morning. I'm the EDEY coordinator for the City of Philadelphia, Bear Washington School. Bianca and Cameo are both my colleagues. They just probably didn't see me on, but I am here. So, hello, y'all.
I'm sorry. Bye.
And I'm not sure. I think did we hit everyone?
No, I think we still have a few. I was doing my best to keep track. I think
Jesus?
I
Hey,
lost track
Jesus?
here. Go ahead.
Cindy?
I already
Sydney?
got, but thank
Oh,
you.
you did go?
Maybe Natalie or Danielle.
Did Anna go? Now
Well,
it's
I
just
have
time for
not gone
anybody
yet.
to yell out.
I'll introduce myself.
I'm so sorry, but my name is Danielle, and I am the parent coordinator in Rochester, New York at Autumn Lane Elementary School. I hope you guys are hearing me.
Got it. Thank you.
Hi, my
Hello.
name is Shalana Morris. I'm actually an attendance teacher for New York City Public Schools. We partner a lot with community school directors. That's why I jumped in the room. I actually do a lot more than the typical attendance teacher does, so I get involved with family engagement quite a lot, and my CSDs are true heroes to me, so that's why I'm here.
Natalie? Oh,
Not sure if there's anybody else.
go ahead, Natalie.
I'm Natalie. I'm a family advocate. Actually, a couple of my coworkers are on here, so well.
All right. If you haven't gone yet, if you want to just unmute and go ahead.
Hi, I'm Elise Cardarelli. I am a parent coordinator for Grace Arcadia Middle School in Rochester, New York, and high school. So I'm a parent coordinator for the middle and the high.
Hi, my name is Megda Carrero. I'm the Family and Community Engagement Specialist for the District of Stratford Public Schools.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
No? Yeah? Oh, okay. My name is Anna Link, and I work for the Guidance Center of Westchester. I'm a family engagement specialist. And the work that we do is we go to different schools in the Westchester area, New York, and we help support the classrooms and the teachers with children with some difficult behaviors. And so yeah, there's three of us in the working as in the same role. So here's Carmen. I'll give it to her. I don't know if she spoke before, but I'll give it to her. Thank you.
All right. Who hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rachel. From Newark Head Start, Wayne County, Rochester. I am a family advocate. I work along with Nali and two others. They will introduce themselves.
Thank you.
And I'm Bridget. I'm a family advocate over here in Newark, New York. And I work with Rachel and Natalie and Misty. So we are trying desperately to try to get our parents more engaged with our program. We're trying to listen to find some ideas because our parents active with school activities that we are trying to have monthly as low attendance. We're just trying to get some new ideas from you guys.
Go ahead. I feel like, did we get everybody? No, I think we missed a couple of folks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Neerman Vidro. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut. I work with Clifford Beers. I just started my role in community schools as a a bilingual school coordinator. I just left the role of lead care coordinator, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hi, hello everyone. Jenny Herrera, and I work for the ESOL program as a bilingual family and community outreach facilitator. And this year I'm going to start working closely with the community and the school coordinators, and this is why I'm here.
Thank you. Last call.
Yeah, hi.
There we
This
go.
is Anna
Thanks.
Monahan. I work for the family for the Guidance Center of Westchester as Anna Ling. We work with many sites of school. We work in New York, Westchester.
All right, last call. All right. Well, if we didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, you can put it in the chat. So thanks everyone. So it was great to just kind of hear where folks are from in different roles. So I guess whether you're a family engagement specialist, liaison, coordinator, or doing family engagement work, curious kind of what this group thinks about what is the biggest opportunity for this particular role within the broader community schools movement. What is the biggest opportunity that you've identified or you've been thinking about a little bit?
Cindy DeJesus, Family Liaison, Boston Public Schools. Something that has been very successful at my school at the district level has been home visits and those community walks, meeting folks where they're at. Families tend to be a little bit more receptive once you've done the groundwork of not just calling them or contacting them when things are going wrong with their student or things are going wrong with the parent, where maybe now you need to send them to court or anything like that. One of the biggest issues that I started to see was that when our first communications with families tend to be negative for the rest of the year, the relationship is going to kind of keep a sour note, is going to remain negative. So reaching out to families during the summer, reaching out to families during breaks and giving them resource opportunities, I always find is one of the best ways to kind of start connecting with families, letting them self-report. So when you give them the tools to self-report, so like little surveys saying, if you need support with XYZ, these are the things that I can help you with at the school level. These are some community resources. When you also start to recognize that families are having a lot of the same issues that we may have experienced growing up, or I'll speak for myself that I had experience growing up, and kind of thinking back, what were the barriers to engagement for my family, right? So like transportation. So if you can do a home visit, if you can do a community visit, that's going to help a family tremendously. If you can invite families to come and be part of the conversation and building policy. So we had a huge issue with attendance. And when we started asking at parent council, well, why are students having a hard time getting out of bed? And I would see that some of my own parent council members, like, okay, Miss, Rivera, why does your child have 30 absences and you're sitting here in parent council? I couldn't think, oh, okay, well, you're not an engaged parent, like your child has 30 absences. It was like you're trying to engage with us, right? Now my job is the school's job is how can we get you to engage further so that you can help engage your child? And the biggest misconception from a lot of staff I would hear was like, well, parents don't care because, and it's like, no. Starting to think about like Maslow, right? What is the need that the family has? If a family is worried about like feeding their child, clothing their child, keeping a job, keeping a roof over their head, they're not going to care that now you're talking to them about the MCAS. Well, have you let them know what the MCAS is or what the importance of that is? Have you let them know why it's important that, their kids are coming to school? And if you don't care about the kids from that perspective, then families aren't going to care about you and what you've got going on. So once we started doing home visits, families started to be a little bit more appreciative because I would show up to home visits and I would be like, hey, I know you mentioned having food insecurity. I have a bag of food for you. I have the report card. Can we just talk for 2 seconds? They're not doing so well in, math. What can we start doing to help them get better at math? Those parents started opening up, pardon, a lot more, as opposed to me being like, I'm sending you to court because your child has 30 absences. Have a great day. Every time I talk to that parent now, and as a family liaison, I have to be the one to take the hit because I'm the one that has to deliver that information. And if that's the first time that they're interacting with me, it's not going to go well. So reaching out to families a lot sooner than the beginning of the school year, reaching out to families a lot sooner than when, part of my French, the shit has hit the fan. That's what's going to get those relationships going. That's what's going to make those tough conversations a little easier and help families be a lot more receptive. But home visits, community visits, bringing resources to families, especially bringing accessibility, because I think we often think, oh, well, they need food. We have food at the school. They can come to the school. But if I'm a parent with a disability or I can't drive, or in our situation where kids can choose what schools they want to go to, regardless of how far they live from the school, we have kids that are traveling an hour to get to school each day. Those kids, those parents aren't going to be able to come to school every time we have something happening. So coming onto their court really just helped the situation and building those relationships first before you have to start delivering negative news has just been really transformative this year and last year for me in this role.
I love that. You saw in the chat too, build the bridge before you need it, right? I wish we had more time to talk about
Right. I wanted to add something real quick
that.
since I'm in the cyber world. So I'm in Philadelphia and I have 1,100 students. I think I direct text the Philly crew that was in this room. So what I'm doing right now, we have a satellite location in Philadelphia, and I'm going to be linking out to the crew that's here for the community schools to actually learn how to build that sense of community. Because what we're dealing with the cyber world is that they coming from the school district to us, but the families still don't the teachers be like, oh, they can't use a laptop. There's some families that never got trained on laptops. There's some families that never, they own Kindles, they don't own iPads. So like there's no like cultural responsiveness of your region. We have teachers in Pittsburgh teaching teachers in Philadelphia, but not understanding the culture. There's two different.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully, you were able to have quick but engaging conversations. And I highly, highly recommend that if you are able to connect with someone, get their contact information, right? This work can feel incredibly isolating at times, and it can often feel like you are alone. But you are not. There is an entire region here that is cheering you on and that want to be supportive of you, whether you are in an urban, a rural, a suburban context. It's important to be connected. And at the Coalition, we are committed to creating those spaces for you all to connect and to learn. I just want to give a quick shout out again to the planning team, right? It takes all of us coming together to do this work well. Like on this planning team, we had state level representation, we had district level representation, right? We had some national, right? It takes all of us to do this work, but we don't want to do this work and do things to you. We really do want to walk alongside you and to partner with you where it makes sense. And so next slide, Jaden. And so with that, thank you. So thank you to our planning team. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you all for presenting. And then next slide. And then if you are someone who's like, I'm new, we're doing family engagement, but like it's not organized in like a coherent way to get to student success or shared goals. I highly want to plug just the community school strategy in general. This is not a separate strategy that you do. Family and community engagement is embedded in every element of the strategy. And so if you're someone that's looking to learn more, feel free to scan this QR code to learn about some of the essential resources to support you in this work. I also want to do a quick plug that we are currently counting the number of community schools. Not some folks are, implementing these practices, but they don't necessarily identify as a community school. Like we want to acknowledge you and to count you in our official count. So you'll see if you work with community schools or you work in a community schools, let us know in the survey. And then we also just want to create a space for ongoing connection. So at last year's Nexus, we created this evergreen networking document. And this is for folks who's open to conversation with others. And so if you're open to having conversations, feel free to sign up on this Google Doc. This is all self-organized. Feel free to reach out to someone and say, hey, you were at the Northeast Nexus. I'd love to learn more about your work, right? This is a way for you all to stay connected as well. And then with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kwesi Rollins for the next slide and to close this out. Kwesi. And next slide, Jaden.
Well, I think many of you know that we have been in the family and community engagement kind of field for quite some time. For the last 15 years, we've paid close attention to working with school districts and their teams, with both district leaders, with a national network of folks, as well as increasingly doing capacity building for district level teams. And so for those of you who are outside of school districts doing the community school strategy, one of the ways to strengthen family and community engagement is to really deeply connect with your school district and its family engagement team and compare notes and figure out how to combine your strategies. But either way, we have a number of supports that are available to you for capacity building for teams, for strategic planning, for um, systemic engagement, auditing and assessment services, and really just developing your strategy to strengthen family and community engagement. So you can find out more. We'll let you know how to access this information, and we'll send that to all attendees. But encourage you to consider doing something more formally as a team. A shared learning experience always helps to take work to the next level. Jolene?
Wonderful. Last slide, Jaden. And with that, just thank you. If you do want to stay connected, please do not hesitate to reach out. We have an evaluation survey. Tell us what you want. Tell us where you want us to lean in so we know how we can better support you in the work. But yeah,